Picture this. It's 1990. One of your favorite games is Mega Man 2, and when you want to change things up, you play the original Mega Man. In your young mind, these are the only two Mega Man games in existence. One day, your dad goes to Toys R Us. He takes you to the electronics section and grabs a yellow ticket. He takes that ticket to the cashier and pays to get a red ticket. He takes the red ticket to a counter just across from the exit, hands it to the guy behind the counter, and waits until the guy returns with this, wrapped in plastic. Your young mind is blown as a rush of excitement sets in. Mega Man is now a trilogy. And with each step taken after opening the plastic, the dopamine hits keep coming. Dr. Wily's a good guy? Mega Man has a dog? Mega Man just hangs out with the bad guys from the last two games? Except for Cutman. I don't know what his problem is. And who is this guy? The finishing touches of the founding mythos that so many fans have come to know and love are established here in Mega Man 3.
Calling Mega Man! Calling Mega Man! Come in, please! Mega Man, we need you! We're down to the wire on our peacekeeping project. We've got to get those last energy crystals or we can't finish it. Dr. Wily is here now too. Yes, he's finally found his sanity. He knows where the crystals are. They're in the mining world, but we can't get to them. The robots are running amok and they're destroying everything. You've got to get there, Mega Man, and get those crystals. You'll have to face some pretty mean metal. Expect the worst. Is Rush there with you? Give him a bolt to chew on and tell him it's from us. What's that? We must be getting static. Sounds like you said woof. Mega Man, get to those mining worlds pronto. Grab the crystals and stop whoever's in charge. He's one lunatic guy. This is Dr. Light, over and out.
This is my favorite Mega Man title music. And then the music just loops around again. Now, one of the first steps that I take when I play this game is go into the password and select either color and put a dot at A6. That starts you off at the beginning of the game with a full round of 9 E-tanks. Now, Mega Man 3 does their boss weakness order a little different from the previous two. There are 2 cycles of boss abilities effective against other bosses. In the first cycle, Magnet Man is effective against Hard Man is effective against Top Man is effective against Shadow Man is effective against Spark Man, and then Spark Man completes the first cycle by being effective against Magnet Man. That's the first cycle. In the second cycle, Snake Man is effective against Gemini Man is effective against Needle Man, and then Needle Man completes the second cycle and is effective against Snake Man. So in this walkthrough, we will be taking out 2 bosses with just our regular power shot. And do you remember this song? That song is actually only in 3 of the 6 Mega Mans on the NES. The other 3 use their own unique songs to introduce each boss. Let's start with Magnet Man to hear Mega Man 3's. I actually prefer that one. The nostalgia is strong in this one. Just seeing those metal wires wrapped around the floor takes me back to a different time. Now in Mega Man 3, one of the new features for Mega Man's mobility is his slide ability, pushing down and the jump button at the same time. Now here's a little cheat as well. On controller 2, if you hold right on the D-pad, Mega Man has a high jump, and an added benefit to the high jump is as long as you're holding down right on controller 2's D-pad, pits will not kill Mega Man. In fact, they will increase how high he jumps. Another trick that you can do with controller number 2 is if you hold the up button, it gives you kind of a slow motion effect, but it's weird. It doesn't really affect a character that's already in motion as much as it affects their animations. That's why you can see Mega Man kind of sliding back and forth, but because the animations are delayed, that does produce a bit of a slow motion effect. The first appearance of Man, as he is introduced in this game. His attack pattern is very easy. He will run until he gets close enough to Mega Man, and then he'll begin jumping and shooting. He won't shoot grounded. He will only shoot when he's in the air. The instruction book gave no names to the enemies, but you'll recognize these guys as a much larger version of the previous game's enemies, the little guys that would slide around the floor and then spring around if they hit you. These walking eyeballs take 3 shots to take them out. Here is a deviation, a new style of subscreen from the previous 2 games. We have machines here that are strong magnets. They pull Mega Man towards them as he approaches. Now another trick with that slow motion on controller 2, if you hold the A button, it intensifies the slowdown of the animations, which will benefit us at the end of the game if you care about the music. The classic block puzzle. You only need to jump on 4 or 5 blocks here. Just watch the timing. The blocks all fall in the same pattern. Here you only need 3 jumps. If you use the high jump trick on controller 2, this next part will be easy. Otherwise, watch the pattern, see where the blocks go, and then make your jumps. Only 3 blocks needed. Same for this next phase. Watch your patterns. A couple of leaps of faith involved here, but... Now another perk to the high jump trick, if you're in a pit and you're holding down right on the D-pad on controller 2, if you let go of it just for a moment, just long enough for Mega Man's life to deplete, and then you press right away back on the right D-pad, Mega Man will be invincible to all enemy attacks. However, his standard shot is connected to his health bar, so just like when a special weapon energy runs out, when your life runs out, Mega Man cannot shoot his standard shot. Magnet Man has 2 attacks, and he will jump to the opposite side of the screen after doing each one. His one attack, he will jump up and shoot 3 magnets that will change direction only once to pursue you, and then his other attack is where he reverses his own polarity to draw Mega Man to him. So as long as you have the timing of the jumps down, and you make good use of the slide, this will be an easy fight. Epic music time. I am really frustrated that I cut that song out before the best part, but I won't be too hard on myself. Some of my favorite stage music coming up. Now the first enemy you're going to encounter here drops an indestructible nest that explodes into 5 little bees or wasps, and you can take those out. If you could reach the bee or wasp at the very top, then you can catch him before he drops that nest. But they have these first few designed to be out of reach. Those bees can be very frustrating as they follow Mega Man around. This level is going to act like a tutorial for your slide ability. You'll be using it to move quickly enough to dodge these chomps that come out of the green, and you'll also be using it quite a bit to get through some narrow passageways. Here is Sniper Joe from the previous games. He's got on some more chonky armor, and you can only damage him when his eye turns red. If you slide at the right time, you can dodge his attack. And this marks our first time using Rush, Mega Man's canine companion. Some high up primate enemies. They can be easily dispatched with the magnet weapon, but your magnet missile, you don't have many to use. It gets depleted pretty quickly. So I like to stick to the power shot, even though these primates are driving me crazy. Here's an easy way to take out Sniper Joe using the ladder. A much needed energy crystal, or energy pack. Energy crystals are what I call the reserves, actually. Now, as you can see, just 4 or 5 shots and we're already depleted by the third. The Mets are back, and this time they're operating a bulldozer, although we will see some more classic looking Mets as well. I always loved how you slide as long as you need to in those narrow passageways. And I love the quickness of it. That's why I like Mega Man X so much, because the slide and the dash became so much a part of the game's battle, and it was more flow and freeing. Those are the classic Mets that we've been waiting for, and now lots of sliding while dodging the wasps again. Nope, too late to fill up the magnet missile on that one. Another familiar face. In this game, he was mysterious whenever he showed up. We did not know much about him, and we loved that about the story. A mysterious new character. Now here's a guy you don't want to use the slowdown on. He jumps like crazy at one point when you hold down the slowdown cheat on controller 2. Hardman will freeze you whenever he jumps up and his head hits the ground, so you have to make sure that you place yourself in a good spot to dodge him. We'll knock back one E-tank. His arm missiles will change direction once to pursue Mega Man, much like Magnet Man's will, and you can quickly dispatch him with your magnet missile. Two robot bosses down. This weapon ability is actually used in Smash Bros. As Mega Man's down air attack. And here is the entirety of this epic song. Top Man is next with my absolute favorite music intro to any Mega Man song ever. I just love it. Not just the intro, but this whole song is definitely one of my top 5 favorite Mega Man songs. These hopping enemies can be annoying. You have to get the right timing to shoot them. And these blue enemies, it's interesting. I like the animation and the concept that they have to screw together before they start to attack you. And you can't damage them until they have completed screwing together and start moving towards Mega Man. There's a little guy with the top coming out of his stomach. Would be kind of weird if he wasn't a robot. Now the previous game, Mega Man 2, it established Mega Man as a leader of platformer games. But Mega Man 3 took everything from 2 and dialed it up a notch. More story elements, more music, more levels. Believe me, we needed that password system back in the day. And if you're like me, Mega Man 3 was the game that got you interested in the world of Mega Man, in the story of Mega Man. The introduction of Breakman, Mega Man's older brother, Dr. Light's first robot, along with the music and the aesthetic that kind of gave me a more somber vibe to the game. It just made the story more compelling to me in my young mind. So I dare say this was the game that started its die-hard fan base, story-wise. You know, I hear remixes of this stage music, and I've never heard one that I really like as much as the original. I always feel like they overcomplicate it. But Stone McKnuckle does have a good one. We have this cat enemy that's only vulnerable on its jaw, and it's coughing up balls of yarn at Mega Man? I'm not sure. Now going back to Smash Brothers, another ability of Mega Man's that originated in this game is the slide. In Smash Brothers, his down A attack is a slide, but in this game, it is not an attack at all, it's just for mobility. Wait a sec. Just like in any other Mega Man game, spikes and pits will one-shot Mega Man. More satisfying sliding, and a head bonk. These platforms coming up are kind of cool. This spinning animation tells you that they will move Mega Man back and forth, which can throw off the timing and spacing of your jumps, so you have to be precise and decisive. Nice little challenge. And now we face Top Man. We want to get our hard knuckle ready. Top Man will throw a spray of tops at you, spin around in circles, and move to the other side of the screen. Don't shoot him when he's dancing, because you can't stop the top. But he won't dodge bullets when he's not spinning. Three robot bosses down. Man, the music in this game is just so good. Visually, it looks like a kid's game, but the music just turns up the story elements. To me, at least. Shadow Man is next. One of the things that I like about Mega Man games is how the robot boss levels seem to have a theme that coincides with the boss. Like in Top Man, we saw the enemy that had the tops that came out of his belly, or the other enemies that kind of spin around before they start to attack you. But every once in a while in a Mega Man game, there's a level that, to me, doesn't seem to jive, and this one is it. Shadow Man, his design looks like a ninja, but I'm not sure what this level has to do with ninja or with light and darkness. There is one portion of the level coming up where things do get dark. There's an enemy that darkens the lights, and you have to destroy it in order to turn the lights back on. But other than that, I don't really see a theme between Shadow Man, who looks like a ninja, and this industrial chemical water treatment plant or lava treatment plant. Now that circular explosion that we just saw, that will damage Mega Man if you're too close when the enemy is destroyed. And the best way to take out, or the easiest way to take out those darkening robots up top, is with your magnet missile, because it will automatically go up to lock on to an enemy's location, the first enemy it comes across. But you want to be careful because it does not take a lot of magnet missiles to deplete your weapon energy. Do the circuit boxes against the background wall look like little pigs' faces to you? Waste not, want not. We'll need those magnet missiles for a pit coming up. Enemies falling down from the top, trying to knock us into the pit as we're crossing the platforms. Magnet missile will make short work of them and make our traversal a lot easier. Should have used magnet missile one more time than I actually did. Now we have these little dragonflies. They fly behind Mega Man, drop to his level, and then fly towards Mega Man off the screen. So you can just jump over them. Once they come over one time, they won't be coming back. Now the top spin works on Shadow Man. You may recognize it if you've played Smash Brothers. This is the game where the dash attack that Mega Man uses came from. Now it can only be used in the air, and you shouldn't hold the attack button down too long, or you'll use up all your weapon energy trying to one-shot Shadow Man. And you, to my knowledge, have to take a body shot in order to damage any enemy with the top spin. And gaining this ability reminds me that in the fourth Smash Brothers, you could customize your character's abilities. And one of the things you could do for Mega Man was change his Metal Blade into the Shadow Blade. And then there were various other weapons that could be used. The Hyper Bomb from Mega Man 1, Iceman's weapon from Mega Man 1, and others. That's half of our robot bosses down. Going to Sparkman, I'm going to show you a cheat that I discovered on my own, although it's common knowledge now. If you go to your subscreen and select the ability we just learned, Shadow Man, and then press right on the D-pad, you'll go to a rush symbol, but none of the other two symbols are chosen. Close the subscreen and you have selected the hidden Rush Jet. If you want Rush Jet to show up on your subscreen, then you're going to have to pick up a weapon capsule while you have it equipped. Now these guys are related to the enemies from Man Stage in the original Mega Man. And here are some more theme-related enemies for Man Stage. Man actually does that attack. You have to get the timing right with these floor and ceiling enemies when they drop their electric beams. Now here's something that I find interesting. The previous two Mega Mans gave you a fire or water type attack, either ice or water. This is the first Mega Man game that does not give you a fire or water based attack. Alright, now we're going to trigger Rush Jet appearing on the screen. You get a little weapon energy and then you use Rush's ability so that you can deplete a little bit of weapon energy. Now Rush Jet will appear on the subscreen earlier than he should. And in every Mega Man game on the NES, there's always one part, at least, that makes me tense up. This is that part. To this day, because you can't sit still and think about your next move. You have to keep moving. Let's give a little more attention to our illicitly acquired Rush Jet. Now, while doing a little research for this video, particularly researching Breakman, I came across a band called the Megas, and you may be familiar with them. They're very popular. I already knew about the Proto Men from a friend of mine years back, but the Megas I did not hear about until I did the research for this video, and they are very good. I enjoy remixes of Mega Man songs, and I'm not a big fan of fan fiction.
Write your own novel.
But the music is true to the originals, in my opinion, and the lyrics are brilliant, even though they're not official or canon. And I particularly enjoy their acoustic version of this song, called You've Sparked a War. Some more tense moments coming up as we approach the raising platforms into the spikes while we cross the pits. This time we have enemies appearing. in order to throw a little more complication into the mix. I take advantage of my invincibility from getting hit so that the spikes don't hurt me. And then watch, you can bait the enemies if they're homing in on Mega Man's position. Lean against a wall or something to bring them where you want them to be, and then move out of the way and take them out. The Shadow Blade works against Sparkman, and it behaves similar to the Metal Blade from Mega Man 2, except it returns to you after going about halfway out the length of the screen. Sparkman has little sparks that he will shoot out in 8 directions, and then he'll shoot a charged spark at Mega Man. Now, while this is not pretty, it is my style of gaming. Toe-to-toe, as my father said. Here is another ability that they took from Mega Man 3 and put into his abilities in Smash Bros. Although it's very different. Sparkman's ability in Smash Bros. Looks like Mega Man takes Sparkman's arms for a close-ranged attack. We have now completed the first circuit of robot bosses. Sparkman is effective against Magnet Man, so now we pick one of the 3 remaining robot bosses to take out with our regular power shot. I like to go for Snake Man next. You have a bouncing enemy that will follow Mega Man around the stage, and then these stationary snake heads that periodically shoot at Mega Man. As long as you keep moving, you should be able to dodge those shots from the snakes. Now, if you've been paying close attention to my wording in these videos, you may notice that I have not used the term Mega Buster. I call Mega Man's regular shot his power shot. I call it that because when you open up the subscreen, there's a P when you select Mega Man's standard weapon, and the term Mega Buster was not used until Mega Man 4. This larger version of the snake enemy shoots 3 shots at Mega Man, which, if you keep moving, you should be able to place them and dodge them. Now, Mega Man 4 came out in 1991. So for the first 5 years of Mega Man's existence, we never used the term Mega Buster. We never even heard of it. The Mega Buster was the name they gave to Mega Man's charge shot. And somewhere along the line, Mega Buster became interchangeable with his regular weapon. So that's why for the first 3 games, I don't refer to his standard weapon as the Mega Buster. I refer to it as his regular power shot. I always thought the P on the menu stood for Plasma because of the Mega Man cartoon show, but I think it just stands for his regular power shot. I don't actually know what the P stands for, but it doesn't stand for Mega Buster. We have a couple of chunky Sniper Joes to take care of as we continue our ascent towards Snake Man's lair. So what do you think? Is Mega Man 2 better than Mega Man 3? Some who say that Mega Man 3 is better than Mega Man 2 may at first glance look like wannabe iconoclasts. But really, when you look at the substance of each game, you can see the reason why people would like Mega Man 3 over Mega Man 2. And it's cool in these old games, there's a feeling that I used to get from them when the scenery would change suddenly in one level. And it doesn't feel like that feeling can be repeated nowadays. There's just this excitement or charm from being in one level that feels like you're confined, feels like you're in a dungeon or a cave, and then all of a sudden you see blue sky. It's hard to put that feeling into words, but I haven't experienced that feeling in modern day titles. Modern games are awesome in their graphical development, but there's just something about that contrast in these old games from being inside to suddenly being outside. Like right here. It's purely an aesthetic change, but it does something. That's why I say video games are art. This is pixel art, but it is a work of art nonetheless because it gives a different feeling. These guys can be handled easily with the Shadow Blade. Also, if you hit them with Sparkman's weapon, they'll freeze for a few seconds. Now here's another fun and interesting part. We have platforms that kind of wobble left and right with little propellers under them, and what looks like a cloud enemy with a propeller behind it, but if you shoot it just once, you will knock the cloud away and find out it's a rocket coming at you. but once you shoot them, they will go straight forward. When they're in their cloud form, they kind of wobble up and down. So sometimes it makes more sense to shoot them so that they'll go in one straight line and you can dodge them as they pass by and get out of your hair. Unless you're a terrible shot like me. Now for Snake Man's strategy, this is again not going to be pretty. My memory failed me during this playthrough and I switched to the Shadow Blade because I thought I remembered him being weak to the Shadow Blade, but he is not. However, his behavior, as you will see, is that he walks from one side of the room to the next. As he gets close enough to Mega Man, he'll throw an extra jump in there, and then he will shoot two little snake enemies out, or snake shots, and they will climb up the wall and then disappear when they hit the ceiling. Then when he gets to the other side of the room, he'll shoot another two snakes. Sometimes he'll shoot the snakes from the middle, jump up, and shoot two of them. Sometimes he'll shoot them from the ends of the room. But this is basically his pattern, just back and forth, walking and jumping. And it makes it hard to dodge him because of the floor being uneven. It's hard to tell whether you need to walk or whether you need to slide. And I've never really practiced it, and since I start the game with a full round of energy tanks, I'll just go toe-to-toe with him until one of us gets destroyed. Two robot bosses to go. Mega Man now gains the ability to use those same two snakes that will run along the floor and climb up the wall. A very interesting level is next. Gemini has to deal with the Zodiac, and so we have a heavy astro feel to this level with the stars in the background, but this level also goes aquatic. You see the penguins there, and these eyeball enemies that drop the flames, if you use your magnet missile, you can take them out quickly enough, but don't go too crazy like I am on the penguins, or you'll use up all your magnet missile before you get to the end of this level. There, finally I get more conservative, down to one shot. No doubt the Shadow Blade also works. Now coming up, we're going to see Breakman again, and I heard a rumor that there was an animation at this point where Breakman shows up and puts on a different helmet that we see him in later. We don't fight Breakman at this point, but he opens up a path for us. Now the level goes from cosmic to progressively aquatic. It's going to be interesting to see. And as you can see, there's nothing to the right. But when you fall, I did not do this, but fall to the left as closely as you can, and then you'll be able to catch that one up. Here is an interesting part. These little eggs release little tadpole type enemies, and you can only destroy them with your regular power shot. None of your enemy abilities that we are currently equipped with will work here. There's something satisfying about taking them all out in a row like that. Now I want to get to that little item box up at the top with the question mark on it, so I'm going to create a little ledge on the corner here, and I'm trying to be careful that I don't take out that bottom piece. Then I'm going to take out the enemies along the top, one by one. Made a little mistake there, but not the end of the world, because I also want to have enough room to jump up without using rush coil if I can help it. So I create a little ledge for myself on that end. Take out those two. Looks like I'll have to use Rush Coil after all, but at least not as much, because it takes a decent chunk of weapon energy every time you jump on Rush, and a free man. That makes it worth it. To me, at least. So the aquatic theme to this level, my guess is that it has to deal with sailors who would use the stars to navigate while on the ocean, and that's why they included both a astro feel and an aquatic. Now, to clarify, based on what you just saw, it's the eggs that can't be destroyed with your special weapons, but the tadpoles themselves can be destroyed with your boss weapons. Waste not, want not. You're going to see a little skip. That's because I was riding the struggle bus trying to make this jump because I was too cheap to use Rush Coil again. So we may look at the aquatic theme to this level and think, why penguins? And I don't know exactly what the developers were thinking, but Gemini is most prominent, the constellation, in the winter skies of the northern hemisphere. So maybe because of the winter being when Gemini is most prominent, they're using animals that are present in snow-covered lands? I don't know. I do know that the explosion that enemy leaves behind is nostalgic. And as you can see, the giant penguin that spawns little penguins is only weak in his eyes, and you can destroy the little penguins that jump out. Maybe if you're looking to refill your health or some of the weapon energy, you could sit there and take out the little penguins until they drop enough weapon capsules or life capsules. This one's going to help me out though. Now coming up is one of my favorite features of Mega Man 3. We find a pool of water, and we are able to drive in a dog underwater. And what I like about this is that it kind of makes me feel like I'm playing R-Type, but at the same time, if you came here, because Mega Man is designed as a non-linear game, if you came here without Rush Marine, you still have these platforms that you could use to navigate across the top, which would be a lot harder than if you have Rush Marine. The other thing I like is how you're able to jump out of the water, and you can't walk on land, but you can hop on land. A lot of the old NES games give you that ability to jump on land, but walking is difficult or impossible if you're controlling an aquatic-based machine or animal. Little Nemo comes to mind, which is also made by Capcom. Now, one of the things about Gemini, it is Latin for twin. And that meaning is significant here in Mega Man 3 because Gemini Man is going to split into two. And the two Gemini Men will jump round and round over Mega Man's head until you take one of them out. Then the other one left over will kind of walk and hop, shooting at Mega Man until you take him out. Now they jump from the right side of the screen to the left side of the screen, so if you shoot to Mega Man's left and then jump over the Gemini Men as they run across the screen, it should be a pretty easy fight. There's the running and hopping, now that the other twin has been taken care of. And so ends what I think is the most thought-provoking level of Mega Man 3. And on to our final robot boss. This porcupine enemy cannot be damaged while it's rolling. Now, something that I've never really been clear on in this particular game, in the instruction book, Dr. Light says that the necessary crystals for their peacekeeping project are on mining worlds. And I've read in other places that Mega Man is traveling to different planets. The 8 robot bosses are on different planets. So that would be an interesting thing if Mega Man was actually traveling interstellar. You have to wait until these cannons open up in order to damage them. But if Mega Man is traveling between worlds, that opens up some possibilities for the Mega Man Legends storyline. To my knowledge, Mega Man, Mega Man X, and Mega Man Legends all take place in the same timeline, but I don't think there's ever been interplanetary travel. Everything has to do with Earth and what happens to the people on the Earth, and the robots, the relationship between the two. It's one of my favorite stories, the whole big picture, and I wish Capcom would do something with it. In fact, I'm going to vent for a second. I was talking to a friend of mine who saw the whole series of Pokemon start to finish, and he saw the last episode with Ash. Ash's last Pokemon battle. My friend was so involved in that fight. It was so exciting to him, it was so epic, and it just made me jealous that Mega Man's story was left high and dry. And I wish that they would at least give us a story that retires this big arc that travels from Mega Man through Mega Man X, Mega Man Zero, and all the way into Mega Man Legends. Have one game that will wrap it up so that we can have that same satisfying feeling that the Pokemon fans got from having Ash do his last Pokemon battle and finally retire and hang it up. And I think that the game would sell well, and I don't think that it would prevent them from doing any of the things that they've done recently, their collaboration with Minecraft and other things. But just wrap up this story. Don't just leave it out there hanging. Make a good game, put it together, make it innovative. And honestly, if they did it right, nostalgia would probably drive this old gamer to tears. So for Needleman's strategy, he'll shoot at you with his arm cannon. He'll also shoot the spikes on the top of his head at you. And the disadvantage to using Gemini Man's ability is you can only have one laser beam on screen at a time. So if you shoot Needleman and you miss, you can't shoot him again until that laser beam bounces off the walls and finally leaves the screen. Now you would think normally at this point in time we go to face Dr. Wily in his castle, but no, it's time to go back to 4 of the levels with altered maps to face the Doc robots. Each of these levels has 2 Doc robots to face. Let's start with Sparkman's stage. This is one of my favorite things that video games do sometimes, is go back to a familiar level and alter the way the level looks, as well as the behavior of some or all of the enemies. Just like in Super Mario World, if you beat the Star Road on the Super Nintendo, the whole map changes, the enemies change, the levels change. I just love when video games do that. And I imagine it takes quite a bit of work for the developers to redo all the maps like that and to alter the maps and the enemy behavior. If you just stand on those yellow pulleys, they will move Mega Man off the edge. So once you jump on one, you have to keep moving and move on to the next and the next until you get to steady ground. Now, as far as the lore of the Doc robots, I haven't really been clear on where they came from. According to the comics and the cartoons, the Doc robots were built by Dr. Wily. But I thought I read somewhere that the Doc robots were sent to Mega Man by Breakman in order to test his ability. And we will see that the Doc robots adopt a Robot Master's ability from the previous game, Mega Man 2. This particular fight will be easier because it does not have a conveyor belt along the bottom like Metal Man used. This particular Doc robot will be weak to either the magnet missile or the hard knuckle. And just like Metal Man, or just like the giant Snakehead in Snake Man stage, you can bait those blades that he throws at you. But keep in mind that he jumps when you press the shot button. That should help you to place your shots at the right time. After you defeat one Doc robot, you move on to the second half of the stage. But anyway, I personally like the idea that the Doc robots were sent by Proto Man, as a test of Mega Man's abilities, but I think it makes more sense that the Doc robots were built by Dr. Wily, since they are using the abilities of the 8 robot masters that Wily himself built. And maybe there's something written down somewhere that tells me where the Doc robots came from, and I just haven't seen that yet. But again, I don't count the comics or any of the other media as canon, especially since the Saturday morning TV show of Mega Man made Proto Man one who works for Dr. Wily, when Proto Man is deeper than that, and Proto Man works for himself. He follows his own code or his own standard, which is why I think so many people like Proto Man. Now this next part is a little tricky. These trash blocks will fall every 3 seconds until 2 fall and 1 is queued to fall, which means when 2 of these trash blocks fall, if you take too long to eliminate them, a third one will already be there waiting. But if you take them out quickly enough, you will have enough time to make your jump as needed. For this next Doc robot, you'll want to switch to Gemini Man's ability. This Doc robot will inherit the powers of Quick Man from Mega Man 2, and he will behave just like Quick Man. And keep in mind that these Doc robots have a bigger hitbox than the original robot bosses they take their powers from. But he will jump twice. During one of those jumps, he will throw down 3 boomerangs at you that go straight down and then go in Mega Man's direction. And then he will run for a little while after his second jump before he repeats his behavior. Keep in mind that with the Gemini laser you have to aim carefully unless you're good at doing trick shots, because as long as one Gemini laser is on the screen, you cannot pause the game to go to the subscreen. So that means no switching weapons and no activating your energy crystals if you need them until the Gemini laser leaves the screen. Two Doc robots down, 6 to go. No victory music, no weapon abilities gained, just the password, and we're on to the next one. So, can you see why the password function was so helpful in this particular game? This game was a lot longer than its predecessors. And just looking at those passwords, it brings me back to nostalgic days. The blue dots and the red dots, just something about looking at them reminds me of a time I can see my older brothers playing this game. I can see my dad waking us up because he finally got to the end of the game and he wanted us to see him beat the game. Also, I remember writing down the passwords. My brothers would write down A5, B6, but I like to actually draw the grid out and use the dots. I would put R where red's supposed to go, I would put B where blue is supposed to go, and that used up a lot more paper space. But I was always extra like that. I still am, come to think of it. And we're going to get our loyal companion Rush out to help us through the next 2 screens. In order to reach that 1-up as well as that energy tank, you want to switch to Rush Jet. There's a good lesson to keep in mind. If you want to use Rush, you have to make sure there's enough floor in front of you for Rush to land on it. He won't just stop where you are, he will stop where there's a platform. And I got a double dose of 1-ups. The nice difference between the Doc Robot stages as opposed to the previous Dr. Wily stages is that your weapon energy, including your rush abilities, will recharge between each level. We're coming up to the halfway Doc Robot fight here. This Doc Robot will take on the abilities of Airman, and you can use either Magnet Missile or Spark Shock against Airman here. Airman behaves just like in Mega Man 2. He throws little blue tornadoes at you that will blow you towards the back of the screen. If you can jump over one of those tornadoes, you'll have a clear shot at him to shoot him maybe twice, but you cannot shoot through those tornadoes. If you get hit, take advantage of your temporary invincibility to run through and shoot him once, maybe twice. And after his first jump, if you can, stay close to him, and that will help you to be able to shoot him through the tornadoes. get ready to fly on a dog. The game takes the side space shooter feel again, and it's going to be challenging. We will be flying on Rush Jet. We will need to keep Rush's weapon energy full, as well as dodge and shoot the enemies that will be flying and pursuing Mega Man. And we can't switch our weapons to a more advantageous weapon. As long as we are on Rush, we can only use our regular power shot. So we navigate through, we watch the enemies as they jump. Remember, the dragonflies will drop once to pursue Mega Man, and then they will fly off the screen. So you can either take them out or just avoid them. Some weapon energy crystals you won't need to take. You'll have enough Rush juice to make it through the gap. Here, if you jump off of Rush and then slide through and come back, it's really easy to do because the screen freezes when you pick up weapon energy. So as soon as the screen freezes, just turn around, sliding in a different direction, and you'll be able to survive just fine. We refill our Rush abilities. You can make this jump with just Rush Coil. Do you remember those giant hard hats in Needle Man stage? Well, now those giant hard hats reveal themselves. They are giant Mets, and the cross in the middle of their hard hat is where their weakness is. In fact, we're coming up on more Mets who have altered their behavior because of the altered Doc Robot stages. And here's a little trivia. Doc Robot is actually a transliteration of the character's Japanese name, which translates basically to Skull Robot. And if we look at his character art, it helps us to see why that name fits. Now, this Mega Man 3 is unique in the home console series in that it gives you 4 additional levels to defeat after you've beat the 8 robot bosses, but before you head to the villain's lair. However, it does not make it the longest Mega Man in the series for various reasons. In some games, you have 2 of the villain's lairs to go through. Now with the upcoming Doc Robot, this one will take on the abilities of Crash Man from Mega Man 2, and we're going to see one thing about the top spin and one thing about the hard knuckle. With the top spin, if you hold the attack button down for too long, you could use up all your weapon abilities on one attack, just like that. And with the hard knuckle, if you push up and down on your D-pad, you can kind of control a little bit where the hard knuckle goes. Four Doc Robots down and 4 to go. Gemini Man is next. Or rather, Gemini Man's revamped stage. And in this level, we're going to see some enemies behaving differently. These little enemies running across the ground are actually the enemies that we've only seen on ladders up to this point. So, fan fiction. As a rule, I never touch this stuff. But when it comes to Mega Man, it's a little bit different. You can't be a Mega Man fan for this long and not come across some of his fan fiction. And I think that's because the Mega Man storyline has put so many good building blocks into place, but it's never been fleshed out. So it leaves a lot of room for the fans to fill in the details. And some of them have been quite clever, particularly the bands that have made songs and lyrics based on the Mega Man storyline. However, I never count those stories as truly part of the Mega Man lore. And here's one reason why. The major difference between Mega Man and Mega Man X, to me, has been the fact that Mega Man X has always been conflicted about fighting, whereas Mega Man has always been raring and ready to go. And he gets impatient with Wily's antics at one point, and who wouldn't, but he never really questioned whether he should be fighting or not. That's mainly something that has been inserted by fan fiction and not so much by the game itself. It always seemed to be more of Mega Man X's thing, to be conflicted. A good rule of thumb during certain construction projects is to work from the top down, and that's how we're going to handle these little eggs with the tadpoles. If you take out the top eggs, you'll hopefully create a ledge that will enable you to maneuver them. And if you need to fall, you can always fall down, but creating a path for yourself up at the top is the way to go in order to keep in control of where you are locating yourself, generally speaking. So for the first Doc robot of this stage, he is going to take on the abilities of Flashman, and Needleman's weapon works well against him. He's actually a little bit easier than Flashman in that he freezes you for a shorter amount of time than Flashman does in the game. If you need to recharge any of your health or weapon items, you can just stand underneath that opening in the ceiling and farm those enemies. And then a water level. I don't know what it is about Mega Man water levels, but I enjoy them, and I especially enjoy being able to use Rush Marine. And just like in the last level where we had to pick up some weapon capsules along the way to keep Rush Jet fed, we will do the same with Rush Marine. Ejecting from Rush Marine is as simple as pausing and unpausing the game. Just don't do it over spikes. These red enemies that drop their faces on Mega Man are originally from Snake Man's stage, but the alterations of the levels have made this change. And then in the next screen, we're going to see those enemies that run across the floor that were normally on ladders. Now you'll recognize them as you see them climbing down the ladders to get to you. And their behavior is much faster than they were before the Doc Robot stages. You know, when I think about how long this game is, I can't help but think of how my brother sat with me with the number 2 controller, and he held up or right on the D-pad whenever I needed him to as we played through this game. Sometimes he trolled me and he activated the slow motion when I didn't want him to, but he sat with me for over an hour on multiple playthroughs of this game throughout our childhood, and he just pushed 2 buttons to help me clear this game. So, you know what? Shout out to you, bro. You were the real MVP. You may have already guessed, since we are submerged underwater, that the final Doc robot has the abilities of Bubble Man. Now, Spark Shock also works against Bubble Man, but Shadow Blade is more reminiscent of Metal Blade, which was one of the effective weapons against Bubble Man in the original. 2 attacks, a couple of bubbles that bounce across the screen, and some shots that go straight ahead as he floats up and down at you. Six Doc robots down, 2 to go, 1 final level. And right off the bat, you can tell that this level is more dangerous with these added spikes. If Mega Man touches them, they will take him out in 1 shot. These spikes are more for show unless you deliberately jump off the ladders. Here's how to handle this guy. He'll slide underneath when he jumps. Now we're coming up on a tricky path. There's these red platforms that as soon as Mega Man steps on them, they will separate and drop Mega Man to the ground. So you have to jump immediately. As soon as you touch the platform itself, you have to jump to the next, and to the next. And can't quite get that reach on that last jump without jumping a second time on the second to last platform. This one's a little bit more scary with these pits. Everything is dark, you don't know where the pits begin and end. You have to jump on 9 platforms and then the lights turn back on. We're coming up on the 7th Doc robot. This one is going to be based on Woodman from Mega Man 2, and you can use the Search Snake or the Needle Shot, but I'm going to be using the Search Snake. He does the same thing that he did in Mega Man 2, where he will throw leaves up into the air, 4 leaves will fall to the ground, and the leaf shield that is swirling around him during that time, he will throw at you, as the 4 leaves are falling to the ground. If you play Smash Brothers, you may have a special hatred towards that leaf shield if you've been the victim of it. These Doc robots do pack a punch, and on this next leaf shield, I second guess myself and say, maybe I should take an energy tank before that leaf shield hits me. And for the duration of this fight, I will not dodge a single leaf shield. I know that the Doc robots' hitboxes are bigger than the original bosses that they come from, but I'm not sure if that leaf shield hitbox is bigger. I could just be bad. So the Doc robots are infamous for their difficulty, but I really don't think that they are that difficult since they copy the actions of the previous robot bosses. But at least in my case, we've already fought 8 robot bosses. Now that we're going to have another 8 to fight, I just don't have the patience to learn these fights by playing them over and over again. I really want to get to the final castle. I'm enjoying myself, and I hesitate to say that this game drags on, because I think that it's good, even though we may feel like this is taking a long time to get to the final levels. I don't know, I think that it builds patience and persistence to play through a video game that's taking longer than you anticipate it to, or longer than you feel like it, and you just keep pushing forward and playing the game, even though it's taking longer to get to where you want to be. I just feel like there's some benefit in it. Coming up on the final Doc robot, this one is taking on the characteristics of Heat Man from the previous game. And in this situation, you could use the Shadow Blade or the Top Spin. I am not daring enough to do the Top Spin, so we're going to take the Shadow Blade in here. Heat Man's pattern, he shoots 3 fireballs at you that will raise into fire columns. You do your best to dodge them. And then when you hit Heat Man, he will engulf himself in flames and charge at you. Sometimes if you hit him quick enough, he will do the engulf and charge before he shoots those flames at you. And jumping over him is pretty easy, unless you're really close to him when he starts to charge. You may not be able to time it right. No passwords, but one final test for Mega Man before he enters the final phase of the game. Breakman wants a piece. You may look at this fighter and think, why is Proto Man wearing a different helmet? And he behaves the exact same way Proto Man does. The answer? I don't know. Plot twist, Dr. Wily betrays Dr. Light. The iconic eyebrows. And now we finally head to Dr. Wily's fortress. Now, everybody loves Mega Man 2's Dr. Wily music. And I agree that it is tops, one of the best. But the other Dr. Wily stages, I feel like they suffer and they don't get enough attention because of the popularity of Mega Man 2. But these other stages, especially this one, is good quality music, I think. Now, I was in my bag in this level, as they say, when playing through. I don't know if just the memories came back to me or the patterns of the level, but I'm going to be moving pretty quickly and not taking a lot of damage, which, when you play a Mega Man game, is probably the most satisfying way to play it. Here's another one of my favorite places when you get to use Rush Marine. Driving on a dog underwater is my favorite part of Mega Man 3. And I think it really is my favorite part. That's not an exaggeration. Make sure you pick up the energy capsules that the enemies drop along the way. Really not a big deal if you don't, because you can jump through that area just as easily, maybe a little bit more difficultly. You want to get through these walls? Get Hardman's ability out. On the next screen, we have that energy crystal up top. Rush coil is not going to jump you up high enough to get to that top platform, so you want to get Rush Jet. You can switch over to the Hard Knuckle easily enough. Refill your Hard Knuckle or your Rush Jet, whichever you prefer. Then we have a few Chunky Joes to fight through. You have to shoot early to make your shots across the screen to hit Sniper Joe. And as you can see, 9 shots will take him out. Sliding underneath his ball and chain is going to be the easiest. And here you can use Magnet Missile, but you have to keep in mind that the magnet will also try to track that ball and chain. So you have to time it right to shoot that Magnet Missile just before he throws the ball, and make sure it hits him just after his eye goes from white to red. Here's the disappearing block puzzle. Very easy. Jump to 3, slide into where the energy tanks are, or the life capsules, and then slide across when that last block appears. Here you can use Rush Coil to jump up and refill your weapon abilities of choice. For this boss, we're going to be using the Shadow Blade, and it's an interesting boss because there's a robot at the top that drops these robotic sea turtles. These swirls of air that shoot in from the bottom and the sides, they won't hurt Mega Man. They will just push him around, which can be cumbersome when you're trying to hit these turtles. It only takes 1 or 2 shots with the Shadow Blade, and you never have to hit the robot on the top. As you can see, every time you take out a turtle, the boss's energy drops. Take out enough turtles, and the level is over. On to Dr. Wily Stage 2. They troll us a bit by dropping us into these platforms that we have to manage our way above. Now we have weapon capsules here. I recommend not picking up these weapon capsules unless you have to. So we're going to grab the one, but leave the other, because if you die before finishing this level and you've used up certain weapon abilities or rush abilities, as you will soon see, that capsule will still be there for you to replenish, because those capsules don't return in between deaths. Waste not, want not. Keep moving for this. Don't stop for these little chomps. You've got about a second before those chomps jump up after you've stepped on their lair, if you will. These bees can be quite annoying. Now here's another example. If you don't need that weapon capsule on the right, don't grab it, because if you die and you return to this area, that weapon capsule won't return if you pick it up now. So we'll skip over that. We've got a full Rush Jet tank. Moving right along, trying to run away from the bees. Now, in gaming terms, I have made a terrible mistake. Pausing the game to the subscreen when Rush is out will deactivate Rush, so that when you unpause, there is no more Rush under your feet, which in this instance means Mega Man falls straight to the spikes. Having learned my lesson, I return, fill up my Rush Jet weapon energy with the weapon capsule I did not pick up on the first time around, and I put my viewers through another painful experience to watch. I'm so out of practice. But you know, that's video games. These platformers, it's a choreography. The enemies do the same thing every time. They have their pattern, and I had my patterns of dealing with them, so that these games I would clear in a very clean way, but I am out of practice. Now we're going to come up on a familiar enemy. The Hard Knuckle will prove effective. This is going to be the second of many encounters with the Yellow Devil. We will only encounter him once in Mega Man 3, but we will encounter him again in future Mega Man installments. Now he enters just like he did in the original, but we have the advantage of having the slide ability in this game, which means if you time it right, you have to jump less. Now as soon as he finishes forming, because the hard knuckle is so slow, you're going to want to turn around and fire a hard knuckle to catch him in the eye. You might even be able to get a second hard knuckle off if you're quick enough. I like to just watch for the bottom two, either I'm going to slide or I'm going to jump. And then at the end, 2 slides in a row. Jump, slide, and slide. And then hit him once, hit him a second time. There's a different pattern from the original game, this bouncing pattern that he does. And if you slide better than I just did, you should be able to get through without taking any damage. When he breaks apart in pieces, that is, he will always break apart in the same pattern. So we end with 2 slides in a row, and then we turn around. Again, you get the patterns down, you beat the game. This beginning part could be a potential conundrum for you. If you don't have any rush jet or rush coil abilities, you won't be able to get out of this little box that you land into, and you'll have to let this enemy shoot you until you lose all of your lives and go to the game over screen. Because then when you push continue, you will come back to this level with full weapon ability, including rush. But as we go through this level, we're going to see the need for good weapon ability management. So we pick up a weapon capsule here, and then leave a weapon capsule if we don't need it. Always good to pick up an energy crystal as long as you have less than 9. And then we're going to come across those enemies that will dim the lights. We can switch to the magnet missile in order to take them out. But again, you are a little bit more limited with your magnet missile. So make sure that you only shoot these enemies that dim the lights and not the exploding enemies. To make sure you save as much of the magnet missile as you can. And at the end, we have a nice large weapon capsule to help us stay on top of things. We don't really worry about chunky Sniper Joe at this point. And here, I'm very proud to say, I don't get hit by this guy or by the second guy. That slide ability, that's what I was missing from the previous 2 Mega Man games. Instant death all the way around you, but just keep moving, keep jumping, and you'll do just fine. Most of these platforms are set up so that you can just keep moving. We're going to come across another familiar enemy from the original Mega Man, and that is the copy robot enemy. It is a boss that looks just like Mega Man, but this time he brings 2 copies along with him. 2 copies that cannot be harmed. So you have to find, with your search snake, the correct Mega Man that can take damage, or the correct copy robot, excuse me. And I just seem to luck out at this point and come across the right Mega Man the last 2 times he warped. This is the level in which Mega Man will rematch all 8 robot bosses. Unlike Mega Man 2, though, we have to get through a few rooms before we get to their boss teleporter rooms. And now more weapon ability management, resource management. There's this Junker robot that kind of looks like a cat. To me, he has a cat's face. I don't know. But we'll take out this question mark and top off our search snake. But we really don't need Rush Marine, so we're going to leave that weapon energy alone, just in case we have to come back. Another junk cat robot. 2 more garbage cat robots. Now again, keep in mind that these enemies do have official names, but I'm giving you the experience of us playing the game with a limited amount of information. What we had from the instruction book is the only real information we got. And Nintendo Power Magazine. Through this teleporter is the boss teleporter room, where we will begin our boss Gauntlet. And for your reference, here are the boss locations. Feel free to pause the video if you like to take note. Each one of these bosses, after you defeat them, will drop a large health pack in order to help you recover a little health before moving on to the others. And what's that I hear? Another mega montage.
It's time to throw down. Show me what you got today. We change the end. And if it was up to me, I'd rewrite our story and change my destiny one last time.
And that's that for the robot bosses. This brings us to the end of the level, but we have one more room where we can do more resource management. What you really want to focus on here is your hard knuckle and your spark shot. Make sure that those are topped off. You can also make sure that your search snake is full as well. But for this screen, we're going to focus on the hard knuckle and the spark shot. And with that, we move on to our battle with Dr. Wily. More opportunities to fill our weapon levels. I'm going to top off the search snake, and then I'm going to fill up whatever looks low. We're nearing the end of the game, and I know how to beat the next two bosses pretty easily. They're not very generous with me as far as weapon energy in the question mark boxes, but for Dr. Wily, get your spark shot ready. Stand to the left, and as soon as the cannon on the bottom of Dr. Wily's machine shows itself on screen, right here, you have to do a short hop and shoot it 4 times. Take it out very quickly. Then you can get on Rush Jet as Dr. Wily is refilling, hop up, and unload on Wily directly. But keep in mind that he will drop, and if you miss him with 2 shots, you have to wait for those 2 shots to leave the screen before you can start shooting him again. Have we apprehended Dr. Wily? Nope. In true Dr. Wily fashion. Now at this point, Mega Man leaves. Somehow he knows where Dr. Wily really is. Maybe it was a trap that drew Mega Man in. But here is the true final battle of the game. A few more opportunities to replenish our weapon energy. We won't need too much because again, this fight will be quick as long as you know what you're doing. I thought about it, and then I thought, I don't need it. Now we fight Gamma, the Peacekeeping Project. That's what this robot here is. He's only vulnerable on the top that's shooting out those little bullets. You can hit him from the bottom with Shadow Blade and continue dodging those bullets, or you can jump on the little platform here on the right. Remember that with Hard Knuckle, you can kind of direct where it goes up and down. So equip Hard Knuckle, face Gamma, and hold up whenever you shoot, and you can hit Gamma without needing to jump at all. Now Dr. Wily falls, his life energy does not replenish, but we have to use Search Snake in order to hit him, and you have to jump over far enough for Dr. Wily to take damage from Search Snake. The only real thing to be concerned about are these blasts that shoot out of Gamma's mouth periodically. You could also potentially one-shot the second phase with Top Spin. Now we watch as Mega Man moonwalks, faces Wily, and then the place is self-destructing. But a mysterious figure saves Mega Man, although it is too late for Dr. Wily. Now there is the first canonical mention of Proto Man. Up to this point, he was called Breakman. Now we see Proto Man's origins as we cycle through the robots created by Dr. Light on the bottom. You'll notice that I'm holding up on the control pad on controller 2. That is slowing down Mega Man's animation. I'm doing that for a reason, because this ending music is very nice to me, but you can't hear it all unless you pause Mega Man's frame. You'll see. Now as we go down the numbers of each robot, we come to Dr. Light's first 3 robots. Roll, Mega Man's sister, Mega Man himself, also known as Rock, and then Dr. Light's true first robot creation, Proto Man. Now here, just enjoy the music. And now it loops. So we let go of the controller. I always love that plot device. The mysterious brother. Neutral. Is he friend or foe? Now here's something interesting, the robot numbers. They don't really denote whether it was Dr. Light who created them or Dr. Wily who created them. They're just numbered robots. So Proto Man is 0, Mega Man is number 1, Roll is number 2, and then the robot bosses that we have fought, 6 of them in Mega Man the original, 8 of them in Mega Man 2, and then 8 in Mega Man 3 make 24 robots altogether that we have considered so far. And this game, as we mentioned at the beginning, this game really did establish or finish establishing the founding mythos of the Mega Man story. A lot of fan fiction that I've seen, almost all of the fan fiction that I have seen, has to deal with elements from all 3 of these games. Not so much Mega Man 4, 5, 6, and all the others, but this original trilogy, Mega Man 1, 2, and 3, are where a lot of the core elements of the Mega Man mythos have come from. Mega Man 2 and 3 themselves vying for the popular vote of the best Mega Man game ever. It's still not my favorite Mega Man game, although I do love them. I love every Mega Man game that I've ever played. My least favorite being the original Mega Man, but they were still finding their style as far as the design goes. But that's it for this, the longest Mega Man game that we've played yet. Thanks for listening to an old gamer.